I'm staring at my computer screen cursor hovering over the delete button. Through the glass office walls, I watch Derek slump in his chair as HR Director Sarah Chen and CFO Marcus Thompson sit across from him. His coffee cup still steams on the desk. 3 hours until payroll, 3 hours until everyone discovers what happens when you steal someone's life work and then order them to erase it. Derek told me to delete everything I'd built over 2 years, claiming it belonged to the company. So I did exactly what he said. I deleted the one file he never backed up, the authentication key that made everything work. Now, his career is about to vanish faster than his smug grin. 6 months ago, I walked into Meridian Technologies with butterflies dancing in my stomach and dreams lighting up my eyes. After graduating from the University of Texas with my computer science degree and grinding through 3 years at tiny startups, I'd finally landed my first major corporate position. The lobby gleamed with polished marble and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Austin. Everything felt possible. Derek Hoffman stood waiting by the elevators, all confident handshake and practiced charm. 10 years older than my 32, he carried himself like someone accustomed to being the smartest person in the room. His navy suit fit perfectly, silver watch catching the morning light as he gestured toward the IT floor. As operations manager, he'd be my direct supervisor, and frankly, he seemed like the mentor I'd always hoped to find. The elevator ride up felt like ascending toward my future. Derek explained Meridian's struggles with their antiquated inventory system, how supply chain inefficiencies were bleeding hundreds of thousands monthly. Boxes sat in warehouses while stores ran empty. Orders arrived weeks late or never at all. The previous IT team had attempted fixes, but their solutions created more problems than they solved. Derek led me through a maze of cubicles to what he called my temporary workspace in the basement level. The cramped space barely accommodated a desk, and monitor fluorescent lights humming overhead like angry wasps. Not exactly the environment I'd envisioned, but Derek assured me it was just until permanent arrangements could be made. My assignment seemed straightforward enough: modernize the inventory tracking system. Simple words hiding massive complexity. I dove into the existing architecture, untangling years of patched code and abandoned solutions. The deeper I dug, the more I realized we needed something revolutionary, not evolutionary. Late nights became my norm. I survived on coffee and determination, building something that had never existed before: an algorithm that could predict inventory needs using machine learning principles. Instead of simply tracking what moved, my system analyzed patterns, seasonal fluctuations, regional preferences, even weather data that might affect purchasing behavior. It was ambitious, maybe crazy, but it worked. After 3 weeks of intensive development, I had preliminary results that made my hands shake with excitement. The algorithm projected potential savings of $2 million annually. 2 million. I printed the reports with trembling fingers and rushed to Derek's office. Derek studied the documents, eyebrows rising with each page. He leaned back in his leather chair, fingers steepled, looking genuinely impressed. The numbers spoke for themselves: 37% reduction in excess inventory, 42% improvement in stock availability, 18% decrease in emergency shipping costs. "This is remarkable work, Claire," he said, setting the reports aside. "Truly innovative thinking, but let's keep this between us until we're absolutely certain everything functions perfectly. No point in raising expectations prematurely." His caution made sense. Corporate environments demanded proven results, not promising theories. I agreed to continue refining the system, adding safeguards and testing protocols. Derek suggested daily check-ins to monitor progress and ensure I had necessary resources. Those conversations felt collaborative, productive. Derek asked thoughtful questions about methodology and implementation challenges. He seemed genuinely interested in understanding the technical aspects, though he occasionally needed clarification on the more complex algorithms. I attributed this to his management focus rather than technical specialization. 3 weeks later, Derek scheduled a department meeting to discuss inventory optimization strategies. I arrived early, laptop loaded with updated projections and demonstration materials. The conference room filled with senior developers, project managers, and department heads. I waited for Derek to introduce my presentation. Instead, Derek stood at the front of the room and began describing breakthrough innovations in inventory management. My innovations, my algorithms, my months of work. He spoke with authority about machine learning applications, predictive modeling, and cost reduction strategies. Every concept I developed flowed from his mouth like he'd conceived them himself. My stomach dropped into my shoes. The room buzzed with impressed murmurs as Derek outlined potential savings approaching $2 million annually. Senior management leaned forward, asking questions about implementation timelines and resource requirements. Derek fielded each inquiry smoothly, painting himself as the visionary behind this revolutionary approach. When I cleared my throat to speak, Derek smoothly gestured in my direction. Of course, I have to credit my capable assistant Claire here for helping with the data entry and initial research. She's been invaluable in supporting this project under proper guidance. Assistant, data entry, supporting role. The words hit like physical blows. I opened my mouth to correct the record, but Derek had already moved on to discussing timeline projections and budget considerations. The meeting concluded with handshakes and congratulations directed entirely at Derek. Several executives mentioned potential promotion opportunities, recognition of his innovative leadership. I sat frozen in my chair as the room emptied. Derek accepting praise for work that had consumed my life for months. When the last person left, Derek approached with that same confident smile. Great meeting, don't you think? Really got everyone excited about the possibilities. He gathered his material, seemingly oblivious to my shock. Keep up the excellent support work, Claire. This project is going to take us both places. Both places. Right. I watched him leave, designer shoes clicking against polished floors, carrying credit for my life's work like he'd earned every bit of it. The confrontation had to happen. I couldn't let Derek's theft stand without challenge, regardless of consequences. The next morning, I knocked on his office door, determination outweighing fear. Derek looked up from his computer with that practiced smile, gesturing toward the chair across from his desk. Sunlight streamed through his corner office windows, highlighting awards and certificates covering the walls. Everything about the space screamed success and authority. What can I do for you, Claire? I hope you're as excited about yesterday's reception as I am. Senior management is really energized about our project. Our project. The casual possessiveness in those words ignited something fierce in my chest. Derek, there's been a misunderstanding. The inventory system isn't a collaborative effort. I developed every component myself. The algorithms, the predictive models, the integration protocols, everything. Derek's smile never wavered, but something shifted behind his eyes. He leaned back in his chair, fingers drumming against his desk's polished surface. I think you might be confused about how business collaboration works, Claire. Yes, you've done excellent implementation work under my direction. But the strategic vision, the conceptual framework, the innovative approach, those came from my years of experience and industry insights. You've been executing my vision. The gaslighting was so smooth, so confident, that for a moment I questioned my own memory. Had I misunderstood our interactions? Were those late nights and breakthrough moments somehow products of his guidance? Then I remembered the code, the thousands of lines I'd written alone in that basement cubicle, the algorithms I'd dreamed up during sleepless nights, the mathematical models that existed nowhere except in my mind until I'd brought them to life. Derek, I have documentation. Development logs, code, commits, design documents. Everything proves I created this system independently. His expression hardened almost imperceptibly. The friendly mentor mask slipped, revealing something colder underneath. Claire, I need to remind you that you're still within your probationary period. 6 months, as specified in your employment agreement. During probation, employees can be terminated without cause or explanation. I'd hate for workplace friction to affect your performance evaluation. The threat hung between us like poison gas. 6 months probation, easy termination. My dreams of corporate success suddenly felt as fragile as spun glass. Derek's voice softened, the mentor mask sliding back into place. Look, I understand you're proud of your contributions. You should be. But this is how business works. Ideas evolve through collaboration. Leadership provides vision and direction. Team members execute that vision. You're learning valuable lessons about corporate dynamics. He opened a desk drawer and pulled out a folder, sliding it across to me. These are some preliminary thoughts about your development path here at Meridian. With proper guidance and continued good performance, you could have a real future with this company. I'd hate to see potential derailed by misunderstandings about professional hierarchy. I left his office feeling smaller than when I'd entered. The folder contained generic career development materials, but the message was clear: play along or face consequences. Derek held all the cards: authority connections, institutional support. I was a probationary employee with no leverage and everything to lose. Over the following weeks, I watched Derek build momentum around what the company now called Derek Flow. The name made me physically ill. Management scheduled progress meetings where Derek demonstrated increasing mastery of concepts he had stolen from me. He'd obviously been studying my work, memorizing enough technical details to sound authoritative in presentations. But not everyone was convinced. Janet Walsh, a senior developer with 20 years at Meridian, began asking pointed questions during meetings. Janet had silver-streaked hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and eyes that missed nothing. She'd built her reputation on technical excellence and no-nonsense honesty. Derek, can you explain the mathematical foundation for the seasonal adjustment algorithms? Janet asked during one particularly detailed presentation. The correlation coefficients seem unusually sophisticated for standard inventory management. Derek stumbled slightly, referencing advanced statistical modeling and proprietary optimization techniques. His explanations were vague, lacking the specific knowledge that comes from actually building something. I watched Janet's expression grow increasingly skeptical. After the meeting, Janet cornered me in the break room. The coffee machine gurgled while she studied my face with uncomfortably direct intensity. "That's your work, isn't it?" she said without preamble. "Derek doesn't have the mathematical background for those algorithms. I've seen his previous projects. Competent, but conventional. Nothing approaching the sophistication of this system." I wanted to confirm her suspicions, but Derek's threats echoed in my memory. Janet seemed to read my hesitation. "I've been watching workplace dynamics for 2 decades, Claire. I know intellectual theft when I see it. But I also know that accusations without evidence destroy careers. Be careful, document everything, and when you're ready to act, make sure you have allies." Meanwhile, my system continued exceeding expectations. Implementation across 3 pilot departments produced remarkable results. Inventory waste dropped 37% in the first month. Emergency shipping costs plummeted. Customer satisfaction soared as products stayed consistently available. The success created buzz throughout the company, with Derek positioned as the mastermind behind the transformation. Each success felt like a knife twisting deeper. I'd pour my heart into creating something revolutionary, only to watch Derek bask in praise for my innovation. He scheduled presentations with the executive team discussing expansion plans and budget increases. His calendar filled with meetings I wasn't invited to attend. Worse, Derek had begun documenting our interactions in ways that supported his narrative. He sent carefully crafted emails to HR praising his own innovative leadership while describing me as showing promise under proper supervision. He created paper trails, making me appear as merely a junior contributor following his brilliant guidance. The psychological manipulation was methodical, designed to isolate me while building his reputation. Other colleagues began treating me differently, keeping conversations surface level, avoiding collaboration. Derek's influence was reshaping how everyone perceived my capabilities and contributions. My breaking point came during a late evening when I overheard Derek on a phone call. His office door was slightly ajar, and his voice carried into the hallway where I was retrieving files from a printer. The inventory optimization system is generating exactly the results I projected, Derek was saying. 2 million in annual savings, possibly more as we expand implementation. Yes, I developed the core algorithms myself. Revolutionary approach to predictive analytics. I pressed closer to the door, heart pounding. Senior position. Absolutely, I'm interested. 300,000 base salary would be appropriate, given the innovation I'd bring to your organization. My current system proves I can deliver transformative results. $300,000, nearly triple my salary. Derek was using my work to negotiate a massive job offer with a Fortune 500 competitor. He wasn't just stealing credit, he was planning to cash out and disappear, leaving me with nothing. The phone call continued with Derek discussing timeline preferences and negotiation strategies. He mentioned wanting to secure the position within the next month, pending successful completion of his final presentation at Meridian. Everything clicked into horrible focus. Derek was planning to present my system to our board, use that success to finalize his new job offer, then vanish with both the credit and the financial rewards. I stood in that hallway, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, watching my future evaporate, while Derek plotted his next career move. The injustice burned like acid in my chest. 2 years of work, countless sleepless nights, breakthrough innovations that would transform how companies managed inventory, all about to become footnotes in Derek's success story. But something else burned alongside the injustice determination. Derek thought he'd beaten me, that his position and authority made him untouchable. He was about to discover that stealing someone's life work creates enemies with nothing left to lose. Anger became fuel. I started documenting everything with methodical precision, treating Derek's downfall like any complex coding project: identify objectives, gather resources, plan, implementation, execute flawlessly. My first step involved recording conversations. Texas is a one-party consent state, meaning I could legally record any conversation I participated in. I invested in a small digital recorder and began capturing Derek's increasingly bold claims about his innovative capabilities. Each recording revealed more contradictions, more evidence of his fundamental misunderstanding of the system he claimed to have created. During our daily check-ins, Derek would stumble when I asked specific technical questions about algorithms he supposedly designed. He'd deflect with managerial speak about high-level strategic thinking and delegating implementation details, but the gaps in his knowledge became increasingly obvious. Simultaneously, I discovered Derek had been undermining my reputation throughout the organization. Through careful questioning of colleagues, I learned he'd been spreading subtle rumors about my competence and reliability. He positioned himself as the only barrier preventing my termination, the patient manager willing to work with a difficult employee who required constant guidance. The character assassination was surgical in its precision. Derek never made obviously false statements, just carefully worded observations that painted me as problematic. He mentioned my tendency toward overthinking and difficulty accepting feedback. He expressed concerns about my independence issues and resistance to collaborative approaches. Other developers began avoiding me, apparently convinced by Derek's narrative that I was unprofessional and potentially unstable. Conversations became strained, collaborative opportunities disappeared, and I found myself increasingly isolated within my own department. Derek's manipulation was creating exactly the work environment that would justify my eventual termination. My personal life began suffering under the stress. Emma, my girlfriend of 3 years, grew frustrated with my obsessive focus on workplace drama. Emma taught 4th grade at a local elementary school, approaching problems with the straightforward honesty that made her excellent with children, but sometimes impatient with adult complications. Why don't you just focus on doing good work? She asked over dinner one evening, frustration evident in her voice. All this energy you're putting into office politics could go toward building something new. Maybe Derek taking credit doesn't matter if you're creating value for yourself. Her suggestion made logical sense but missed the emotional reality. This wasn't about office politics, it was about fundamental justice. Derek hadn't just stolen my work, he'd stolen my identity as an innovator, my professional reputation, and potentially my entire career trajectory. Fighting back wasn't about workplace drama, it was about survival. Our relationship grew increasingly tense as Emma struggled to understand why I couldn't simply move forward. She worried about my mental health, my sleep patterns, my growing paranoia about Derek's manipulations. From her perspective, I was destroying myself over something that might resolve itself naturally. But Emma hadn't spent 2 years building something revolutionary only to watch someone else receive credit and financial rewards. She hadn't experienced the particular violation of intellectual theft, the way it corroded your sense of self-worth and professional identity. She wanted me to be practical. I needed to be vindicated. Janet provided the breakthrough I desperately needed. She approached me during lunch break, sliding into the seat across from mine in the company cafeteria. Her expression was serious, conspiratorial. "I've been making discreet inquiries about Derek's background," she said quietly, glancing around to ensure privacy. "There are patterns you need to know about." Janet had contacted former colleagues from Derek's previous companies, using her extensive professional network to investigate his career history. The conversations revealed disturbing consistencies. Derek had a documented pattern of claiming credit for subordinates' work, particularly targeting junior employees with limited organizational power. At his previous position, Derek had allegedly stolen a customer relationship management system designed by a recent college graduate. The theft had been so blatant that several colleagues had attempted to intervene, but the company's leadership had sided with Derek's seniority and political connections. The original developer had eventually resigned in frustration, while Derek received a promotion based on the innovative system. Similar stories emerged from earlier positions. Derek seemed to specialize in identifying talented junior developers, positioning himself as their mentor, then systematically appropriating their innovations. His career advancement had been built on a foundation of intellectual theft enabled by institutional biases, favoring experienced managers over entry-level employees. "He's not just stealing from you, Claire," Janet explained. "This is his business model. He identifies innovation, claims ownership, then moves to the next opportunity. You're dealing with a professional predator." The validation was both relieving and terrifying. Relieving because my instincts about Derek's character had been accurate. Terrifying because Janet's research revealed the sophistication of Derek's manipulation and the historical success of his approach. If previous victims hadn't been able to stop him, what chance did I have? Janet had more disturbing news. Derek had been interviewing external candidates for a senior developer position that would effectively replace me. He'd told Janet that I wasn't working out and that they needed someone with real expertise to maintain his system. Derek was planning to eliminate me entirely while consolidating his ownership of my work. The timeline was becoming clear. Derek intended to present the completed system to the board of directors, secure his new job offer, then fire me and hire a replacement who would maintain the system without questioning its origins. He would escape with full credit while I lost everything: my job, my professional reputation, and any hope of receiving recognition for my innovations. But Janet had identified a potential weakness in Derek's strategy. She'd been reviewing the system code during her spare time, applying her 20 years of development experience to understand the architecture. Her analysis revealed something Derek couldn't possibly know: my programming style was distinctive, identifiable, and completely unlike Derek's previous work. "Your code has fingerprints," Janet explained. "Variable naming conventions, comment structures, algorithm approaches, even spacing preferences. Everything about this system screams your authorship. Anyone with serious technical background could identify you as the creator within minutes of code review. Janet's observations sparked an idea that made my hands tremble with possibility. Derek's theft relied on nobody examining the system's technical foundations too closely. He counted on senior management accepting his claims without detailed verification. But code doesn't lie, and my code told a very specific story about its creator. I started working late into the night, not on system improvements, but on documentation. I compiled every piece of evidence proving my authorship, initial design documents with timestamps, progressive code commits, showing development evolution, unique programming techniques that Derek couldn't possibly have conceived. The evidence was overwhelming once properly organized. My fingerprints were everywhere in the mathematical models that required advanced statistical knowledge in the coding patterns that reflected my specific training and experience in the innovative approaches that pushed beyond conventional inventory management. Meanwhile, Derek had scheduled his final board presentation for the following Friday. I learned about the timing through overheard conversations and calendar glimpses. The presentation would be Derek's crowning moment, the definitive proof of his innovative capabilities that would secure his promotion and new job offer. But I also discovered something else. Derek's planned resignation letter was already drafted, sitting in a folder labeled Transition Materials on his computer. The resignation was scheduled for the Monday after the board presentation, giving him exactly enough time to bask in success before disappearing to his new position. Derek's timeline was precise, calculated, and devastating for everyone he'd leave behind. He would present my system as his masterpiece, accept accolades and financial rewards, then abandon Meridian before anyone could question the sustainability of his innovations. I would be left to explain system failures or maintenance challenges without any authority or recognition. The injustice of Derek's plan crystallized my resolve. He wasn't just stealing my work, he was planning to sabotage my future while advancing his own. The theft was bad enough, but the calculated destruction of my career crossed into something deeper, more personal, more unforgivable. Friday night, working alone in the office while Derek was undoubtedly celebrating his anticipated success, I made a decision that would change both our lives. If Derek wanted to own my system, he would need to understand every component completely. And there was one component he'd never bothered to learn about, one crucial element that could make his ownership very complicated indeed. I pulled up the authentication server code and smiled for the first time in months. Derek was about to discover that stealing someone's work doesn't automatically grant you the ability to control it. Monday morning arrived with the crisp clarity that comes from having a mission. I needed allies, evidence, and a strategy that would expose Derek's theft while protecting my own position. Janet's validation had given me confidence, but winning required more than moral authority. Janet and I began meeting discreetly during lunch breaks, developing our counterattack in the company cafeteria's far corner booth. Her 20 years of corporate experience proved invaluable for understanding institutional politics and identifying key decision-makers who might support our cause. Derek's strength is also his weakness, Janet explained over salads that neither of us had much appetite for. He's built his reputation on claiming technical innovations he doesn't actually understand. Challenge him on specifics and he collapses. Janet had been conducting her own investigation beyond Derek's employment history. She'd analyzed the system architecture with the expertise that comes from decades of development work. Her conclusions were definitive. The coding patterns, mathematical approaches, and innovative techniques throughout the system were completely inconsistent with Derek's documented capabilities and previous work. This isn't just about style preferences, Janet said, showing me printed code samples on her tablet. The mathematical sophistication alone requires advanced statistical training. Derek's background is business administration with basic programming competencies. He couldn't have conceived these algorithms, much less implemented them. More importantly, Janet had identified potential allies within senior management. Marcus Thompson, the chief financial officer, had built his reputation on operational efficiency and cost reduction. The inventory system's projected savings had caught his attention, making him invested in understanding the innovation's technical foundations. Dr. Patricia Williams, our chief technology officer, rarely involved herself in departmental politics, but was known for recognizing and rewarding genuine technical excellence. She'd built her career on breakthrough software development before transitioning to executive leadership. If anyone could appreciate the system's sophistication, it would be Dr. Williams. Sarah Chen, our HR director, had a reputation for fairness and thorough investigation of workplace conflicts. Janet's research revealed that Sarah had previously handled several cases of intellectual property disputes, consistently supporting employees who could document their claims with solid evidence. The key is approaching them correctly, Janet advised. Don't lead with accusations against Derek. Lead with evidence of your innovation and let them draw their own conclusions. Together, we developed a comprehensive presentation documenting my authorship. The evidence package included initial design documents with creation timestamps, progressive code commits showing development evolution over months, and detailed explanations of mathematical models that required specialized knowledge Derek demonstrably lacked. Janet helped verify technical details, providing expert analysis that confirmed the system's sophistication and my distinctive programming signature. Her endorsement carried significant weight within the organization, given her respected status and history of technical integrity. But our investigation revealed disturbing news about Derek's immediate plans. Through discreet questioning and careful observation, we learned that Derek had convinced CEO Robert Sterling that I was unreliable and potentially sabotaging the project. Derek had scheduled one-on-one meetings with Sterling for Wednesday afternoon, planning to recommend my immediate termination for the good of the project and company morale. The timeline was accelerating beyond our preparation. Derek's competitor interview was Thursday, board presentation Friday, and my termination potentially Wednesday evening. We had less than 48 hours to act before Derek eliminated me entirely. Emma finally understood the urgency when I explained Derek's termination plans over dinner Tuesday night. Her teacher instincts recognized workplace bullying even when wrapped in corporate language. For the first time since this situation began, Emma became my partner rather than skeptical observer. "This isn't about office politics anymore," Emma said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "This is about preventing someone from destroying your career through deliberate manipulation. What can I do to help?" Emma's support provided emotional strength I hadn't realized I desperately needed. She helped me practice explaining technical concepts in accessible terms, knowing that senior executives would need clear explanations without overwhelming detail. She role-played difficult questions and challenging scenarios, building my confidence for the confrontation ahead. But Wednesday morning brought devastating news that changed everything. I arrived at the office to discover Derek hunched over his computer, typing furiously with an expression I'd never seen before. Panic mixed with determination. Through careful observation and strategic positioning, I realized he was implementing changes to the system code. Derek was sabotaging his own theft. I accessed the system remotely and watched in real time as Derek introduced subtle errors into critical algorithms. The modifications were sophisticated enough that they wouldn't cause immediate failures, but would create cascading problems over the following weeks. Inventory predictions would become increasingly inaccurate, cost calculations would drift from reality, and the entire system would slowly degrade into unreliability. The sabotage strategy was brilliant in its cruelty. Derek would present the system at peak performance during Friday's board meeting, accept accolades for his innovation, then escape to his new position while the system gradually failed. When problems emerged, Derek would be safely employed elsewhere, while I would bear responsibility for maintaining and fixing a deliberately corrupted system. Even worse, Derek was documenting the sabotage in ways that would implicate me. He created code comments suggesting that Recent modifications by junior staff had introduced concerning instabilities. He generated false email trails indicating that I had been making unauthorized changes despite his explicit instructions to avoid system modifications. The frame job was methodical and comprehensive. When the system failed, Derek's documentation would prove that he'd warned against my interference and tried to prevent my sabotage. I would be blamed for destroying his masterpiece through incompetence or malicious intent. I sat at my desk watching Derek destroy my work while creating evidence to destroy my reputation, and realized that half measures wouldn't save me. Derek wasn't just stealing my system, he was planning to burn it down with me inside. But Derek had made one crucial mistake in his sabotage strategy. He'd been so focused on corrupting algorithms and generating false documentation that he'd overlooked the system's fundamental architecture. The authentication server that controlled access to all system functions remained under my exclusive control. Derek knew the system existed and generally understood its purpose, but he'd never bothered learning the technical details of how authentication worked. In his mind, having administrative access meant having complete control. He didn't realize that the authentication protocols I'd designed required specific cryptographic keys that existed nowhere in the system's standard administrative functions. I controlled those keys, only me. Derek could corrupt the algorithms all he wanted, but without authentication access, he couldn't demonstrate the system's functionality to anyone. And if he couldn't demonstrate the system, he couldn't prove his ownership of the innovation. For the first time since this nightmare began, I held cards Derek didn't know existed. The question was whether I had enough time and courage to play them effectively. Thursday arrived with Derek's competitor interview scheduled for 10 in the morning. Through the security camera access that came with my system administrator privileges, I watched Derek prepare for the video call that would determine his future. He dressed in his best suit, arranged impressive-looking documents across his desk, and loaded demonstration materials on his computer. What Derek didn't know was that those demonstration materials would be completely useless without access to the authentication server I controlled. He was about to discover that stealing someone's work doesn't automatically grant you the ability to use it. I waited until Derek's interview began, then quietly deleted his access credentials from the authentication server. Every system function that required security verification, which included all the impressive features Derek planned to showcase, would now deny his requests with generic error messages. Through the security feed, I watched Derek's confidence evaporate as he attempted to demonstrate capabilities he'd claimed to have created. The system rejected every login attempt, displayed authentication failures for every advanced function, and essentially made Derek look incompetent during the most important interview of his career. The competitor's technical team asked increasingly pointed questions about implementation details and system architecture that Derek couldn't answer. Without functional demonstrations, Derek's claims about innovative capabilities sounded like empty boasting. The interview deteriorated rapidly into embarrassing failure. Meanwhile, I was implementing the final phase of my counterattack. I'd scheduled meetings with Marcus, Sarah, and Dr. Williams for Thursday afternoon, presenting my evidence package while Derek was distracted by his interview disaster. The timing was perfect. Derek would be too focused on damage control to interfere with my presentation. The three executives listened with growing amazement as I explained the system's technical foundations, demonstrated my comprehensive understanding of every component, and provided overwhelming evidence of my authorship. Dr. Williams asked increasingly sophisticated questions that proved she understood the innovation's significance. Marcus focused on cost implications and operational benefits that validated the system's business value. Sarah documented potential policy violations and workplace misconduct that would require formal investigation. "This is extraordinary work," Dr. Williams concluded after reviewing my evidence package. "The mathematical sophistication and implementation elegance represent genuinely groundbreaking innovation. If your documentation is accurate, and it certainly appears comprehensive, this represents intellectual property theft on a massive scale. Marcus leaned forward, his financial mind already calculating implications. The system's projected savings approach 2 million annually. If Derek has been misrepresenting authorship while planning to leave the company, we're looking at potential loss of both the innovation and the innovator. That's an unacceptable business outcome. Sarah's expression had grown increasingly grim throughout the presentation. The documentation you've provided suggests systematic workplace harassment, intellectual property theft, and deliberate career sabotage. These are serious allegations that require immediate investigation and potential legal action. As our meeting concluded, I glanced toward Derek's office and saw him slumped in his chair, staring at his computer screen with the hollow expression of someone whose carefully constructed future had just collapsed. His interview was clearly over, and based on his body language, it hadn't ended well. But Derek's failed interview was just the beginning. In 18 hours, he was scheduled to present my system to the board of directors as his crowning achievement. Except he no longer had access to demonstrate any of the features he'd claimed to have created. Thursday evening, I went home to Emma with something I hadn't felt in months, hope mixed with anticipation. The pieces were finally in motion. Derek had built his theft on a foundation of lies and technical ignorance, and tomorrow, that foundation would crumble in front of the most important audience possible. Justice was less than 24 hours away. Thursday night felt like the calm before a technological storm. Emma and I sat at our kitchen table, my laptop open between us as I walked her through the final details of tomorrow's confrontation. The evidence package was complete, allies were positioned, and Derek's access to my system remained severed. "Are you absolutely certain about this approach?" Emma asked her teacher, instincts making her consider every possible outcome. "Once you trigger this confrontation, there's no going back. Derek will know you've been planning his downfall." I appreciated Emma's caution, but months of Derek's manipulation had eliminated any possibility of peaceful resolution. This wasn't about workplace disagreement anymore. It was about preventing a career criminal from destroying my professional future while profiting from my innovations. Derek made his choice when he decided to steal my work and plan my termination, I replied, reviewing the presentation materials one final time. Tomorrow, he faces the consequences of that choice. Janet called around 8:30 to confirm final preparations. Her voice carried the excitement of someone who'd waited decades to see justice served against workplace predators like Derek. "I've spoken with Marcus, Sarah, and Dr. Williams," Janet reported. "They're all planning to attend tomorrow's board presentation with particular interest in technical details. Derek won't be facing a friendly audience of executives impressed by surface-level marketing. He'll be answering questions from people who now understand the system's actual complexity." Janet had also coordinated with building security to ensure Derek couldn't access my system remotely or attempt any last-minute sabotage. The authentication server remained locked under my exclusive control, making Derek's planned demonstration impossible, regardless of his preparation efforts. "How are you feeling about tomorrow?" Janet asked. "Confident," I answered, surprised to realize I meant it. Derek built his theft on assuming I was powerless to fight back. Tomorrow, he discovers how wrong that assumption was. Friday morning arrived with crystalline clarity. I dressed carefully, choosing professional attire that projected competence and confidence. Today wasn't about appearing subordinate or apologetic. It was about claiming credit for revolutionary work that Derek had stolen. Emma made coffee while I reviewed presentation notes, her presence providing steady emotional support. She'd taken a personal day to be available if anything went wrong, understanding that today would determine the trajectory of my entire career. "Remember what we practiced?" Emma said, squeezing my shoulder as I gathered materials. "Lead with evidence, not emotions. Let the facts speak for themselves. And don't let Derek's manipulation tactics throw you off balance." I arrived at the office 30 minutes early, wanting to ensure everything was prepared before Derek arrived. The building felt different today, charged with anticipation like the moments before a thunderstorm. Today would bring either vindication or complete professional destruction. Derek appeared at his usual time, looking haggard and stressed. Yesterday's failed interview had clearly shaken his confidence, but he still carried himself with the arrogance of someone who believed his position protected him from consequences. He nodded curtly in my direction, probably assuming I knew nothing about his sabotage plans or termination strategy. At 9:45, Derek's phone rang. I couldn't hear the conversation, but his expression shifted from confusion to alarm to barely controlled panic. Through the glass office walls, I watched Derek's carefully constructed world begin its final collapse. The phone call was from building security, informing Derek that senior management had requested his immediate presence in conference room A for a brief pre-meeting discussion. Derek gathered his presentation materials, straightened his tie, and walked toward what he believed would be his moment of triumph. Instead, Derek found Marcus, Sarah, and Dr. Williams waiting with serious expressions and a stack of evidence that would destroy his career. I watched through security cameras as Derek's confidence evaporated upon seeing the documentation spread across the conference table. My evidence package lay open before the three executives' code samples, highlighting my distinctive programming style development timeline, proving my authorship, mathematical analyses, demonstrating sophistication beyond Derek's capabilities, and recorded conversations revealing his technical ignorance. Derek's attempts at explanation became increasingly desperate as the evidence mounted. He claimed collaborative development, mentorship dynamics, and team-based innovation, but every argument collapsed under scrutiny. The proof of my sole authorship was overwhelming and undeniable. Dr. Williams asked specific technical questions about algorithm development that Derek couldn't answer. Marcus pressed for details about cost calculations and performance metrics that Derek had clearly memorized from my reports, rather than understanding fundamentally. Sarah documented each evasion and contradiction with the thoroughness of someone building a legal case. "Mr. Hoffman," Dr. Williams said finally, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd built technology companies from nothing. "The evidence clearly indicates that Ms. Clare developed this system independently. Your claims of authorship appear to be fabricated. Moreover, our investigation has revealed your plans to leave Meridian immediately after today's presentation, taking credit for innovations you didn't create." Derek's face went pale as he realized the scope of their knowledge. Not only had they discovered his theft, they knew about his resignation plans, his competitor interview, and his strategy for abandoning the company after receiving credit for my work. "Furthermore," Sarah continued, "we've uncovered evidence of systematic workplace harassment, deliberate character assassination, and plans to terminate Ms. Clare based on false accusations. These actions constitute serious policy violations with potential legal implications." The confrontation continued for another 20 minutes, with Derek's explanations becoming increasingly incoherent as each excuse was demolished by documented evidence. By the time the meeting ended, Derek's career at Meridian Technologies was effectively over. But there was still the matter of the board presentation. The executives had decided that the presentation would proceed as scheduled, but with a crucial change: I would be presenting my system as its actual creator, while Derek would face immediate suspension pending formal investigation. Derek stumbled from the conference room looking like someone who'd been hit by a truck. His carefully planned career advancement had collapsed into professional disgrace in less than 30 minutes. The theft he'd believed was safely accomplished had become the instrument of his destruction. I spent the next hour preparing for the board presentation, reviewing technical details and business implications that I could explain with complete authority. Unlike Derek, I wouldn't need to memorize talking points or evade questions about implementation challenges. This was my system, my innovation, my moment to finally receive proper recognition. The board of directors filed into the main conference room at 11:12, senior executives representing various aspects of Meridian's operations. CEO Robert Sterling led the group, followed by board members overseeing finance operations technology and strategic planning. Dr. Williams provided introductory remarks explaining the change in presentation format and the ongoing investigation into intellectual property concerns. She emphasized that the inventory management system represented genuine breakthrough innovation that could transform Meridian's operational efficiency. Then, she called my name and I walked to the front of the room, carrying documentation that proved my authorship of revolutionary technology. For the first time in months, I felt the pride and confidence that comes from presenting work you actually created. The moment had arrived. I stood before the board of directors' presentation remote in hand, looking at 12 faces that would determine whether justice prevailed or theft succeeded. Robert Sterling sat at the head of the polished conference table, flanked by executives whose decisions affected thousands of employees and millions in revenue. "Good morning," I began, my voice steady, despite months of anticipation building to this moment. "I'm Claire, and I'm here to present the inventory management system I've developed over the past 8 months." I clicked to my first slide displaying before and after metrics that told the story of revolutionary improvement. 37% reduction in excess inventory, 42% improvement in stock availability, 18% decrease in emergency shipping costs. Numbers that represented millions in annual savings. This system represents a fundamental shift from reactive inventory management to predictive optimization, I explained, walking the board through technical concepts with the confidence that comes from complete understanding. Rather than simply tracking what moves, we analyze patterns, seasonal fluctuations, regional preferences, and external factors that influence purchasing behavior. Board member Janet Morrison, head of operations, leaned forward with obvious interest. "The predictive accuracy rates seem exceptional. How do you achieve such precise forecasting?" I smiled, grateful for a question I could answer with absolute authority. "The core algorithm integrates machine learning principles with traditional inventory metrics. We analyze historical data across multiple variables, weight seasonal patterns by regional demographics, and incorporate external factors like weather patterns and economic indicators that affect consumer behavior." For 20 minutes, I walked through technical details, business implications, and implementation strategies with complete mastery. Every question received detailed, confident answers. Unlike Derek's superficial understanding, I could explain the mathematical foundations, discuss alternative approaches I'd considered, and detail future enhancement opportunities. The board's engagement was obvious. These were intelligent executives who recognized genuine expertise when they encountered it. Several members took extensive notes, asked follow-up questions, and discussed potential applications beyond inventory management. Then, Robert Sterling asked the question that would seal Derek's fate. "This represents extraordinary innovation, Claire. Can you help us understand the development process and collaboration dynamics that produced such remarkable results?" I had prepared for this moment for weeks. The answer would expose Derek's theft while maintaining professional dignity and focusing on facts rather than emotions. "I developed this system independently during evening and weekend hours over 8 months," I replied, clicking to a slide showing development timeline documentation. The initial concept emerged from analyzing inefficiencies in our existing processes. I designed the mathematical models, wrote all code implementation, and conducted testing protocols without assistance or collaboration. Sterling's eyebrows rose. "Derek Hoffman has been presenting this work as his innovative leadership. Are you suggesting those claims are inaccurate?" "I'm providing documentation that proves sole authorship," I answered, advancing to slides showing code samples, design documents, and development logs. The evidence speaks for itself regarding who created this system. Dr. Williams stood to address the board. "We've conducted a thorough investigation of authorship claims. The technical evidence overwhelmingly supports Claire's statements. Additionally, we've discovered that Mr. Hoffman planned to resign immediately after today's presentation, taking credit for innovations he didn't create to advance his career elsewhere." The room erupted in surprised murmurs. Board members exchanged glances, realizing they'd nearly witnessed intellectual property theft on a massive scale. Sterling's expression darkened as he absorbed the implications. "Where is Derek now?" Sterling demanded. Sarah Chen stepped forward. "Mr. Hoffman has been suspended pending formal investigation. We've also contacted the FBI's Corporate Crimes Division regarding potential intellectual property theft and corporate espionage." The board's attention snapped to full alertness. Corporate espionage was a federal crime with serious legal consequences. Sterling's business instincts immediately recognized the potential damage Derek's actions could have inflicted on Meridian's competitive position. Espionage, board member David Kim asked. "Our investigation revealed that Mr. Hoffman planned to share proprietary system details with competitors as part of his job interview process," Sarah explained. "Yesterday's interview with TechFlow Industries was recorded by our security systems and captured him attempting to share confidential technical information." The revelation sent shockwaves through the room. Derek hadn't just stolen credit for my work. He'd planned to sell Meridian's competitive advantages to rivals. The theft was part of a larger betrayal that could have devastated the company's market position. Sterling's face had grown progressively grimmer throughout Sarah's explanation. "So we nearly lost both the innovation and the innovator while unknowingly facilitating corporate espionage." "That's correct," Dr. Williams confirmed. "Derek's plan would have left Meridian without access to the system's creator while he profited from our intellectual property at a competing organization." I watched the board process the full scope of Derek's betrayal. These were experienced executives who understood that Derek's actions represented existential threats to competitiveness and employee morale. Allowing intellectual theft to succeed would signal that innovation wasn't valued or protected. Board member Lisa Park, head of Human Resources Policy, spoke with obvious anger. "This represents everything wrong with corporate culture. We cannot allow employees to advance through theft and manipulation while genuine innovators are discarded." Sterling nodded grimly. "Agreed. Claire, on behalf of the board, I apologize for the injustice you've endured. Your innovation deserves proper recognition and protection." He turned to Dr. Williams. "I want comprehensive policy changes implemented immediately to prevent similar situations. Intellectual property protections, innovation, documentation requirements, and employee advocacy procedures. This cannot happen again." The presentation concluded with unanimous board approval for system-wide implementation and substantial budget allocation for expansion. More importantly, I received formal recognition as the system's creator, including intellectual property rights protection and significant financial compensation for my innovation. As board members filed out, several approached to congratulate me personally and discuss potential collaboration opportunities. The validation felt surreal after months of Derek's manipulation and theft. But the most satisfying moment came when I glanced toward Derek's now empty office and saw security personnel boxing his personal belongings. Through the glass walls, I could see his awards and certificates being packed away, symbolic of a career built on lies finally facing consequences. Robert Sterling approached as I gathered my presentation materials. "Claire, I want you to know that Meridian values innovation and integrity above all else. Your courage in fighting for what's right has protected not just your own work, but the principle that genuine achievement deserves recognition." He paused, looking toward Derek's former office. "Derek's actions could have destroyed our competitive advantages while devastating employee morale. Your decision to fight back prevented damage that would have affected hundreds of colleagues and millions in shareholder value." As I walked back to my desk, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months: pride in my workplace and confidence in my future. Derek's theft had been exposed, his career destroyed, and my innovation finally received proper recognition. The system I'd created would transform how Meridian managed inventory, potentially saving millions annually while improving customer satisfaction. More importantly, the policies Dr. Williams would implement would protect future innovators from facing similar exploitation. Justice had been served, but more than that, the truth had prevailed over manipulation. Integrity had triumphed over theft, and innovation had been properly valued and protected. The fight had been worth every moment of stress and uncertainty. Derek thought he could steal my life's work and disappear with the rewards. Instead, he'd discovered that some things are worth fighting for, and some people refuse to be victims of workplace predators. 6 months later, I sit in my new corner office, watching the sunrise paint Austin's skyline in shades of gold and pink. The morning light reflects off the glass walls where my awards hang beside framed code samples from the inventory system that changed everything. Senior Developer, the nameplate reads, though the title feels less important than the respect it represents. Derek Hoffman faces federal charges for corporate espionage and intellectual property theft. The FBI investigation revealed a pattern of similar crimes across multiple companies, validating Janet's research and confirming Derek as a career criminal who specialized in exploiting junior employees. His professional reputation lies in ruins. His corporate connections severed his future prospects, destroyed by his own greed and arrogance. The investigation also uncovered Derek's sabotage attempts, including his plan to blame system failures on my supposed incompetence. Federal prosecutors are pursuing additional charges for attempted destruction of corporate property and deliberate economic sabotage. Derek's carefully constructed career has collapsed into legal jeopardy that could result in years of imprisonment. Meanwhile, Derek Flow has been permanently renamed the Meridian Predictive Inventory System, with my name prominently featured in all documentation and presentations. The system's full implementation exceeded even my optimistic projections, generating over $5 million in annual savings while establishing Meridian as an industry leader in supply chain innovation. Dr. Patricia Williams personally oversaw my promotion to senior developer, creating a direct reporting relationship that bypasses traditional departmental politics. She's become the mentor I always hoped to find, someone who recognizes innovation and protects innovators from exploitation. Under her guidance, I've developed additional systems that are revolutionizing other aspects of Meridian's operations. The intellectual property protections I received include substantial financial bonuses, patent application support, and royalty agreements that ensure I benefit from any future commercialization of my innovations. The company has also implemented comprehensive policies protecting employee intellectual property and preventing the kind of theft Derek perpetrated. Janet Walsh has become my closest professional ally and friend. Together, we've established a mentorship program for junior developers, ensuring they understand both their technical potential and their legal rights. We've created formal procedures for documenting innovations and reporting intellectual property concerns before they escalate into Derek-style theft. The program has already protected 3 junior developers from attempted credit theft by their supervisors. Our intervention enabled proper attribution of their work while preventing career damage. The success has inspired other departments to implement similar protective measures. My relationship with Emma strengthened through this ordeal in ways I never expected. Her initial skepticism gave way to admiration for my courage in fighting workplace injustice. She gained deep understanding of how intellectual theft can devastate careers and self-worth, while I learned to appreciate her perspective on choosing battles wisely and maintaining personal relationships despite professional stress. Emma supported me through every stage of the confrontation, from the initial discovery of Derek's theft through the final legal proceedings. Her belief in my integrity and capabilities provided emotional strength during the darkest moments of Derek's manipulation. Our relationship emerged stronger and more trusting than ever before. The board of directors established the Meridian Innovation Excellence Award in recognition of breakthrough achievements by company employees. I was the inaugural recipient, receiving both financial rewards and formal recognition that will enhance my career prospects for decades. The award ceremony became a company-wide celebration of innovation and integrity. Robert Sterling personally thanked me during his remarks, emphasizing that my courage in fighting Derek's theft had protected not just my own career, but the principle that genuine achievement deserves recognition. He credited my actions with strengthening Meridian's competitive position and employee morale. The new policies Dr. Williams implemented have transformed Meridian's corporate culture. Intellectual property documentation is now mandatory for all development projects with regular reviews, ensuring proper attribution. Employee advocacy procedures provide clear channels for reporting workplace misconduct without fear of retaliation. Several competitors have attempted to recruit me based on my innovation reputation and media coverage of Derek's downfall. The attention has been gratifying but ultimately unnecessary. Meridian has become the workplace I always hoped to find, an environment that values innovation, protects integrity, and punishes exploitation. My story has been featured in several technology industry publications as an example of how employees can successfully fight intellectual property theft. The articles emphasize the importance of documentation, evidence gathering, and finding institutional allies who will support justice over politics. The coverage has inspired other victims of workplace theft to come forward with their own stories. I've received dozens of emails from developers, engineers, and innovators who faced similar exploitation but lacked the resources or courage to fight back. Many have successfully reclaimed credit for their work using strategies developed during my confrontation with Derek. The Meridian Predictive Inventory System continues generating extraordinary results while inspiring innovations across the industry. Several companies have attempted to develop competing systems, validating my original vision while confirming the breakthrough nature of my approach. The success has established my reputation as a leading innovator in predictive analytics and supply chain optimization. More importantly, the system has created tangible benefits for Meridian's customers and employees. Improved inventory accuracy means products stay available when customers need them, while reduced waste translates to lower costs and environmental benefits. The innovation serves purposes beyond personal vindication. It creates value for thousands of people. Training new developers has become my favorite responsibility. I ensure they understand both technical excellence and professional self-advocacy, teaching them to recognize manipulation tactics while building confidence in their own capabilities. The mentorship feels like honoring everyone who supported my fight against Derek's theft. These young developers remind me why fighting for justice matters beyond personal satisfaction. Derek's pattern of exploitation destroyed careers and discouraged innovation for years before I stopped him. Every developer I train and protect represents a victory over workplace predators who profit from others' creativity and hard work. The most profound lesson from this experience involves understanding that integrity and innovation ultimately triumph over manipulation and theft, but only when people have courage to fight for what's right. Passive acceptance of injustice enables predators like Derek, while discouraging genuine innovators from pursuing their potential. Standing up to Derek required risking everything: my job, my career prospects, my professional reputation, and my personal relationships. The decision felt terrifying at the time, but the alternative was accepting a future where thieves prosper while creators suffer. Some principles are worth any risk to defend. My story demonstrates that workplace exploitation can be defeated through careful preparation, strategic thinking, and institutional support. Derek's advantages in position and experience proved meaningless against documented evidence and determined advocacy. Truth backed by proof remains the most powerful weapon against corporate injustice. Today, I'm developing new predictive systems that could revolutionize how companies manage supply chains across multiple industries. The work builds on mathematical principles I pioneered in the inventory system, extending innovative approaches to broader challenges. The research has attracted attention from academic institutions and technology companies worldwide. But beyond professional success, I've gained something more valuable: the knowledge that fighting for justice creates lasting change beyond personal vindication. The policies protecting intellectual property, the mentorship programs preventing exploitation, and the cultural shifts valuing innovation over politics will benefit countless future employees. Derek thought he could steal my life's work and disappear with the rewards, leaving me to bear consequences of his sabotage and manipulation. Instead, his theft became the catalyst for systemic changes that protect innovation while punishing exploitation. His downfall created opportunities for genuine achievement to receive proper recognition. The sunrise outside my window reminds me that every day brings new possibilities for innovation and justice. Derek's story serves as a warning to workplace predators: steal someone's work, and you might discover that some people refuse to be victims. Fight back with truth, evidence, and courage, and even the most powerful manipulators can be defeated. Looking back, I realized the most important innovation wasn't the inventory system that saved Meridian millions of dollars. It was proving that workplace exploitation can be stopped when victims refuse to accept injustice and fight back with intelligence, preparation, and unwavering determination to see truth prevail over lies. Have you ever faced someone trying to steal credit for your hard work? How did you handle the situation, or what would you do if it happened to you? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like this video to help others who might be facing similar workplace challenges find hope and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about standing up for what's right, and share this video with anyone who needs to know that justice is possible when we refuse to give up. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, your work, your innovation, and your integrity are worth fighting for. Never let anyone convince you otherwise.